When you're standing in the sewing aisle, the first thing that makes you pause isn't the glossy brochure or the price tag, it's the lingering doubt about whether this machine will actually fit into the way you sew day to day. That hesitation is what I wanted to clear up today. I've spent the last few weeks setting up the Janome Skyline S7 Anniversary Edition, running a handful of projects from a simple tote bag to a 3/4-yard quilt block, and I'm going to walk you through what that experience felt like. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the basics of what most people worry about when they look at a high-end computer-controlled machine. Is the tech a barrier or a benefit? The Skyline S7 isn't just a pretty face, it's built around Janome's AccuFeed system, which basically means the fabric is fed from the top with a consistent pressure that stays the same whether you're stitching a delicate silk blouse or a bulky denim jacket. In practice, that translates to fewer skipped stitches when you switch between light and heavy layers. I tested that by sewing a double-layer denim pocket on a pair of jeans, and the feed stayed smooth without the usual tug and pull you see on older models. The next thing that often trips up buyers is stitch selection. The machine offers a computerized stitch library that you navigate with a small LCD screen. At first glance it looks like a menu you'd see on a DSLR, but the layout is actually quite logical once you get past the initial learning curve. I found myself reaching for decorative stitches while adding a subtle embroidered border to a set of pillow covers, and the machine recalled the pattern in a couple of taps. The downside? That same interface can be a little overwhelming for someone who's never dealt with a touchscreen on a sewing machine. If you're comfortable with a bit of menu diving, the variety of options is a real advantage. If you prefer a single knob and a handful of stitches, you might feel boxed in. One of the biggest practical strengths is the built-in automatic thread cutter. I'm a fan of machines that leave the job half done, so having the cutter pop the thread at the end of a seam without you reaching for the scissors is a tiny but constant time saver. It's especially handy when you're quilting long rows. You can let the machine finish the seam, cut, and move on without pausing. The cutter is reliable, though I did notice that on the very first few uses it needed a gentle nudge to clear the thread cleanly. After a short break-in period, it became seamless. Now, let's talk about Workspace. The Skyline's work area is larger than the average domestic machine, which means you can comfortably handle quilts that are 60 inches wide without constantly repositioning the fabric. I tried a 72-inch quilt top and, while it required a slight adjustment of the needle position, the overall width of the machine gave me enough room to maneuver the fabric without the usual tightrope feeling. For anyone who does larger projects, quilting, home decor projects, or even sewing curtains, the extra real estate is a genuine productivity boost. Versatility is another claim that Janome makes, and it holds up when you consider the range of built-in stitches. From a basic straight stitch for seams to a wide array of decorative stitches for embellishment, the machine covers most hobbyist needs. The automatic needle up/down feature also means you can switch between a straight seam and a decorative stitch without manually adjusting the needle every time, which is something I appreciated while adding a lace trim to a wedding dress veil. The computer-controlled system also allows you to store custom stitch combinations, so if you develop a go-to stitch for a certain type of fabric, you can pull it up instantly on future projects. Every machine has trade-offs, and the Skyline S7 is no exception. First, the size. It's a solid, tabletop unit that weighs enough to make it a permanent fixture rather than a portable sidekick. If you have limited space in a small apartment or a cramped craft room, you'll need to dedicate a specific corner for it, and moving it later is a two-person job. Second, the price point. This is an anniversary edition, and it sits in the upper mid-range bracket. For a beginner who only plans to do occasional repairs or simple hemming, the investment might feel steep compared to a more stripped-down model. That's not a criticism of the machine itself, just a reminder that the value proposition shines when you actually use the features that justify the cost. Who should buy the Skyline S7? If you're an experienced sewist who regularly tackles medium to large-scale projects, think quilts, apparel collections, or even a small home-based sewing business, the combination of AccuFeed, expansive workspace, and the ability to program and recall custom stitches will pay dividends in both speed and consistency. It also makes sense for hobbyists who have outgrown entry-level machines but aren't ready to jump into industrial-grade equipment. The automatic thread cutter and computer-driven features are real conveniences.